Hey, this is Michael from Studio One Expert. In this video, I'll show you how to make sure your drum tracks are in phase. Whenever starting a mix, it's important to check that anything that was multi-mic'd is in phase. Typically this is drums, maybe an acoustic guitar that was multi-mic'd, anything that was recorded with multiple microphones. Phase is also a concern with stereo instruments and other aspects of a mix. In this tutorial, we're going to address getting drum tracks in phase with each other, and we'll address other phase aspects in future videos. When two or more tracks are playing together that are out of phase, the most noticeable issues are you lose low end, frequencies are canceled out, imaging is off, and oftentimes a little fatiguing to the ear. The loss of low end is easy to detect when you first learn how to identify phase problems. Tracks being out of phase with one another is something you need to train yourself to hear so you can fix these issues. So to check phase on multi-mic drums, we're going to use two Studio One built-in plugins. We're using the Mix Tool plugin, which the stereo version looks like this, giving you the option to invert the phase of the left channel and the right channel independently, and the mono version, which is the same but only has one phase invert option. And the second Studio One plugin we'll use is the Phase Meter plugin, which looks like this. Let's insert the Phase Meter plugin on the main channel so everything is running through the phase meter. We're going to use the correlation meter of the plugin. The correlation meter displays how in phase the left and right channels are. If it's above 0, then you're in phase. This is what we want. If it's below 0, it's out of phase, which is what we are trying to avoid. The meter will jump around because the stereo information relationships change very rapidly. To learn more about all the features of the Phase Meter plugin, I suggest you download the unofficial Studio One 3 manual from Studio One Expert. It's important to train your ear to hear things out of phase, and the meter is a nice tool while learning to hear phase issues and to check that you are correctly fixing phase issues. First, I'm going to insert a Mix Tool plugin on every channel of the drums. What I do is invert the phase of the left and right channels of the stereo mix tool and the phase invert of the mono channel version. So now, whenever I turn the Mix Tool plugin on, I know I'm inverting the phase of that track, also known as flipping the phase. We have a stereo overhead track, kick in, kick out, kick sub, and snare. So I found some phase issues in these tracks. So first I'm going to turn off my Mix Tool plugins that correct the phase issues and play you the static mix of this multi-mic drum recording that contains some out of phase channels. Then I will turn on the Mix Tool plugins correcting the phase issues. You will notice a lot of the bottom end disappearing when the tracks are out of phase, and also the stereo imaging being off balance and sounding a little unnatural, or what we call phasey. I normally start with the overheads, making sure they're in phase with each other. Let's turn off the Mix Tool plugin on the stereo overhead track, solo it, and listen. As you can see on the phase meter, the correlation is well below 0 on the left side of the meter. This means the left and right channels of the stereo overheads are out of phase with each other, and the stereo imaging is out of balance. Frequencies are canceling out, it sounds fatiguing, not natural. This is just sounding phasey. If you were to listen to only one of the channels, it would sound normal, but when playing these sounds together, they are out of phase and cancel out information. So if we flip the phase of only one channel, now the overhead tracks are in phase with each other. If you have stereo room tracks or tom tracks, you would need to listen and compare which channel is best to flip to keep all of your tracks in phase with each other. So now the overheads are in phase. Start adding other tracks to see if they are in phase with the overheads. I think probably the most obvious phase issues with drums is when the kick is out of phase. In this recording we have 3 kick tracks: kick in, kick out, and kick sub. Because we have 3 kick tracks, I like to get these tracks in phase with each other first, then add them to the mix. Let's start by turning off the mix tool on the kick out and kick sub tracks and soloing the kick in and kick out. Let's listen to these tracks and I will turn the mix tool on and off on the kick out track. All of our kick channels are pan center, so the correlation meter will not help us determine if these tracks are in phase with each other. It sounds better with the kick out flipped, cleaner and more low end punch. If we want, we can hard pan these tracks, one left and the other right, and now the phase meter will show us the phase relationship between these 2 mono channels. So let's listen and watch the correlation meter while I flip the phase of the kick out mic. The phase meter confirmed we're correct thinking these 2 channels are out of phase with each other, so we need to keep the kick out channel flipped. Let's compare the kick out and kick sub tracks the same way. I heard more low end when flipping the phase on the kick sub track, and the correlation meter confirmed that this is in phase. We can hard pan the kick in left and the kick sub right and see if they are in phase. Okay, so it appears all 3 of our kick tracks are now in phase with each other. Let's listen to all 3 kick tracks together. Now we need to see if our kick tracks are in phase with the overheads. Since 2 of our 3 tracks need to be flipped to keep the phase correct with each other, to flip the kicks relative to the overheads, we could bus the kicks to a bus and compare flipping that bus, or just reverse what we currently have, which would be flip the kick in channel and not the other 2 channels. This would keep the kicks in phase with each other, but flip the phase of the kick with the overheads. I hope that's not too confusing. I can show you that now. I think it sounds in phase with the overheads when the kick out and kick sub channels are flipped. Inverting the phase of the kick out and kick sub looks in phase on the correlation meter. Now we need to test our snare track. I think the snare sounds in phase. You can check the snare the same way as the kicks with the correlation meter if you like, and also any tom tracks. Phase is a very important aspect of mixing. This is something that ideally is correct during tracking, however that isn't always the case. I recommend a quick phase check at the beginning of every mix. And if you are tracking drums with multiple microphones, I recommend you check the phase of your microphone placement before recording any keeper tracks. Set up your mics, do a quick recording, check the phase with the mix tool and phase meter. If a mic is out of phase with everything else, either move the mic or flip the phase of the mic pre. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Now go make some great music.